Rome is a great city that has a very convenient geography. The city is located on the west side of the now Italian peninsula in the Mediterranean Sea. It is near the ocean, but not directly on the beach, and it is situated on the Tiber River and surrounded by the plains of Latium. The city itself is also surrounded by 7 small mountains, and the northern part of the peninsula is lined with a great mountain range known as the Alps. Rome's geography is very convenient because they are very well protected by the mountains and the ocean, have access to trade through the river and the ocean, and have good farmland because of the plains. Rome was allegedly founded by a man named Romulus. I say allegedly because the founding of Rome comes from a myth known as the legend of Romulus and Remus. Mars, the god of war, and a princess had twin children. The children were set adrift along the Tiber River, but they did not die. A female wolf found and raised them. After they grew up, they returned to where they were first found to start a city. They fought over who would rule the city, and eventually Romulus killed Remus. For this reason, Rome is not called Rome, since the city was named after Romulus and not Remus. In the beginning of ancient Rome, the city was ruled by kings, but in the course of time, Romans began to dislike the idea of one ruler. The king was kicked out of Rome, and the city of Rome conquered the rest of the peninsula. Their tactics to conquering the peninsula were very smart. Aside from having a strong military, they made alliances with the people they defeated by offering them citizenship and allowing the locals to control their own lands. And they only worried of problems when they became relevant. The conquering of the peninsula resulted in the birth of the Republic. The government of the Republic is made up of 3 branches, which are made up of the consuls, praetors, and the senators. The consuls are made up of 2 people so that one does not become corrupt. They lead the military, run the government, and they serve a 1-year term. The praetors are in charge of the laws. They are the judges, and they commanded the armies in the absence of a consul. The senators, who serve for life, advise the government officials. Their advice eventually turned into laws. The consuls and the praetors made all the final decisions for Rome and its people, but it can be argued that the senators have the most power in the government since they serve for life. The Roman Republic is what our government in America is based off of today. The consuls are like the executive branch, the praetors are like the judicial branch, and the senators are like the legislative branch. The Republic almost ended sooner than it was supposed to when Rome was threatened by a possible invasion from the Aequi. In these kind of emergency situations, the Senate appointed a person to be temporary dictator for 6 months. Cincinnatus was chosen to be the dictator. He was asked to leave his farm and lead the army. He won the Battle of Mount Aegitus and turned it into an important victory for Rome. Cincinnatus could have been dictator for the remainder of his 6 months, but he gave up the reign of his power after only 15 days back to the Senate. He saved the Republic by not allowing it to become corrupt during times of crisis because of his selfless devotion to the Republic. Eventually, the Roman Republic was coming close to its end. It began with the first triumvirate, when 3 generals joined together to rule Rome. Pompey was in charge of ruling Spain, Crassus was in charge of Syria or the Middle East, and Julius Caesar ruled Gaul, also known as today's France. The idea was that the 3 people would rule Rome so that it did not become corrupt, but like most things in history, it became corrupt anyways. The problem began when Crassus died in battle. This left only Caesar and Pompey left to rule. This was the perfect situation for one to claim their power, and that is exactly what Caesar did when he marched his army to Rome and defeated Pompey. This resulted in Julius Caesar becoming the dictator of Rome. Once Caesar died after he got stabbed to death, Rome was in need for new rulers, so they created another triumvirate, this time made up of Octavian, who was Caesar's nephew, Mark Antony, Caesar's ally, and Lepidus, a commander in Caesar's army. Lepidus ends up dying, so just like in the first triumvirate, only 2 people are left, Octavian and Mark Antony. The 2 of them fought over the throne, and Antony, who falls in love with Cleopatra, the queen of Egypt, becomes allies with her. The 2 of them fought Octavian, but ended up losing. They ended up committing suicide, so Octavian expanded Rome over Egypt. He became the first Roman emperor, so the Roman Empire began. The Roman Empire goes through a time period called Pax Romana, or Roman peace. They dominated everything, so there weren't any large conflicts in the region. This time period lasted from 27 BCE to 180 CE. This 200-year period allowed the people to travel safely within Rome because the military was there to enforce peace. This was the time when Rome reached its peak as a civilization. The Romans were well known for their successes in engineering. Their thriving civilization produced advances in technology, culture, and architecture. Many of their inventions are still used today. The Roman aqueduct, which used gravity to transport water along stone, lead, and concrete pipelines into the center of cities, allowed for amenities like public toilets, underground sewage systems, fountains, and public baths. Romans did not invent the aqueduct, but they did perfect it. They were so well built that some of them are still in use today. These structures that you see here, Pantheon, Colosseum, and the Roman Forum, are still standing today due to the development of concrete. The recipe of slaked lime, Putzellana and tuff allowed for the concrete to endure chemical decay and to be waterproof. This resulted in the creations of baths, piers, harbors, and more. You probably use this every day when you go to school, work, mall, or restaurant. The size of the Roman Empire was huge, approximately 1.7 million square miles. The people needed a system to easily get around, so Rome created a very thought-out system of roads. They were made of a combination of dirt, gravel, and bricks and were used for moving armies, trading, and communication. They had about 52,000 miles of paved roads, many of which are still used today. The Roman arch is what prevented the massive Roman structures, like the Colosseum, from crumbling under its own weight. To build them, it was somewhat simple, since the only things that were needed were stone and scaffolding. The design of the arch is made up of abutments, voussoirs, footers, and the keystone. This allows the weight of buildings to be evenly distributed through various supports. Ancient Rome can be argued to be one of the greatest civilizations. They contributed many things to the world, from their government system to their engineering. Many of their contributions are still being used today, and as we discover more about the civilization, we become more and more fascinated by it.